long-standing rumor that you were scheduled to maybe face Undertaker at WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta, because obviously the year before at Bragging Rights, Nexus had attacked Undertaker, buried him alive. So it seemed like that was maybe where it was going. Was that ever kind of something that you thought was going to happen? Was that ever on the cards?
It was never brought to me directly. Even when I was main eventing pay-per-views in that run in 2010 as leader of Nexus, taking on Randy and taking on John and being in these high-profile matches, I was still very much treated as an outsider. And even during that run, none of the Nexus guys were allowed in the locker room at this point. We were still changing corridors, even though I was main eventing pay-per-views. And we weren't really being given the respect by anyone on the writing team or the producers to fill us in on information of where this storyline is going. Certainly not 6 months prior to WrestleMania. But it is fairly obvious, if you know how WWE works, that if a group of guys attack The Undertaker and put The Undertaker out for 5 months until he comes back 4 weeks before WrestleMania for his run there, clearly the intention is for Undertaker to come back and work with those guys. So even though it was never explained to me that, yeah, you guys are definitely going to be working with Undertaker, we knew that that was clearly the plan. But unfortunately, the way things went subsequent to the demise of Nexus and the rise of the core that I'm sure Kenny's going to want to have to talk about, despite my threats earlier. Unfortunately, by the time Undertaker did come back, we had nowhere near the credibility we did at the time that we put him out. So I imagine that the decision to go with Undertaker versus Triple H match was a lot easier for Vince to go with.
There you go. So I'm sorry we have to talk about it, but we do. The core. Does anybody remember the core?
And I would like to thank everyone in attendance because nobody today has wore a core shirt. We've had 2 so far on the tour. I've tried to get security to throw them out, but technically because they've paid a ticket, Kenny wouldn't allow it. So yeah, thank you for not wearing any core merchandise. Not that I think anyone here would have bought one. I was surprised that we actually sold the 2 shirts that we've seen so far on the tour, but yeah, what a period that was.
Well, because in London we had this guy wearing a core t-shirt. We were like, you bought a core t-shirt, ironically. We're like, you bought a core t-shirt. And he was like, it's a good shirt. And then he rips into him for like 10 minutes at the beginning of the show.
He sat on the front row, so I just bullied him for the rest of the show. The poor guy will never come back to one of Kenny's shows again. So.
Well, he's wearing a core t-shirt, so, I'm kidding. Wear any shirt you want. Anyway, so the core was a thing, and the big, yeah, exactly. But the rumor is that Heath Slater went to the printers and misspelled core, and instead of it being C-O-R-E, he spelled it C-O-R-R-E. So can you tell people right now in Glasgow, is that true or not?
So Heath Slater is a very, very good friend of mine. And as I said earlier, he's not the smartest man in the world. But I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to tell you point blank, he is the dumbest man I have ever encountered. That's just to set the scene before we take this any further. So anyway, we're coming off the back of this kind of hot Nexus run. I've been main eventing pay-per-views, we had a ton of heat, and the idea is that Vince has given the Nexus now to CM Punk, but he wanted the key guys from the Nexus to go away, spin off their own thing, and form another faction on a different show. So CM Punk's Nexus were now on Raw, where Randy Orton and John Cena was. We were kind of done with those guys, so spin off Wade and Justin Gabriel and Heath Slater onto the other side on SmackDown, where they had guys like Edge and Rey Mysterio and Big Show and all these new feuds that they could have. So this is going to be great. So Vince decides that they're going to put Ezekiel Jackson with us too as a bit of a heavy, more of a bodyguard type role. And we're not told much more than that. We're just told, okay, guys, see you next week at SmackDown. So we get to SmackDown. All we know is that we're going to have a little faction and we're going to try and recapture this kind of Nexus magic. So I find this out later. But apparently what happened was Vince gets to the arena at SmackDown that week. And he sits in the meeting and things like Breaking Bad and Sons of Anarchy and all these top TV shows, they're planned out, at least 12 months in advance. They know exactly what they're doing. This is where this script's going. This is where that idea is going. Here's how they're going to intermingle 3 seasons later. WWE isn't quite like that. It's Vince turning up on the day for 95% of the show and saying, let's do this today, let's do that, put that guy with him, who do we need, segment 7, we need this guy, we need a babyface to win, so just put him against him, and it's very much thought out, you probably noticed, but at the last minute. So Vince gets to SmackDown. Vince decides, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do today. We had this great run with these guys in Nexus. I want these guys to debut tonight on SmackDown in a group, and I want them wearing a new T-shirt because we made so much money off those Nexus T-shirts. We're going to make them just as cool. They're going to be just as big a hit. I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'm going to be rich. So that's his great plan. So he calls the merchandising guy in who's in charge of that, and he says to him, okay, I need 4 T-shirts for these guys. Go get them printed off. The guy said, yeah, no problem. I'll get something figured out. I'll go to a local printer and get these printed off, and later on we'll get them put on the WWE website or whatever. So Vince says to him, yeah, go get it done now. So the guy says, well, I can't. What's the group going to be called? And Vince hasn't thought about this at all at this point. Oh, well, they're the main people in the Nexus. Let's just call them the Core. Great. The guy runs off, goes onto his computer to check it. Oh dear, there's a problem. Comes back running in. Hey Vince, we can't call them the Core because there's recently been a horror film named The Core, and for the purposes of entertainment, that is copyrighted. We can't use it. Any other form of entertainment cannot copyright The Core. So unfortunately, you're going to have to come up with a different name. Vince being Vince, for whatever reason, he likes The Core. Just spell it differently. Core is really one of those words that you can't spell differently. It's not like rhino. He spells rhino with a Y sometimes. And, you know, there's certain words you can you can use a Z instead of an S in some instances. Core isn't really one of those, but Vince shrugs his shoulder. Of course you can. Just add 2 R's in there. Which we all know is a terrible idea. But Vince is a very powerful man, and everybody around him is terrified for their jobs. It doesn't matter how powerful the producers are or the writers and these great intelligent people around him. You never correct Vince McMahon. When he has an idea, you go with it. So these people I'm imagining here are just telling Vince what a great idea that was. I would never have come up with 2 R's for Core. Vince, I don't know how you do it. So anyway, the merchandise guy runs off to his computer, checks on there. To the surprise of nobody, Core with 2 R's is still available. Weren't we lucky? Comes back in the meeting. Hey, Vince, Core with 2 R's is available. We can go ahead with that. Ha! Well, go get the T-shirts done. The guy said, hey, one problem. And just so you know, here's how it works with T-shirts in WWE. They come up with they have a specialist design team in head office in Stamford who work, and they're artistic guys, graphic designers. They come up with about 10 different ideas for a new guy's shirt, and then they all get passed by the legal team to make sure it's all au fait with whatever laws are applying to the designs we're selling in a PG environment, and we make sure it's not covering copyright of anyone else, and it's a long process. It can take up to 4 or 5 weeks to get this all signed off and agreed, okay, of the 10, this is the one we're going to go with. It ties in with his gear, with other merchandising ideas we have. So the guy says, look, we don't even have a design. This is going to be difficult, Vince. And now time's ticking. It's 3 hours till the show starts. So Vince, shrugging his shoulders and being Vince, grabs a piece of paper. Vince McMahon, graphic designer, draws a rough shape of a T-shirt and writes on there in diagonal letters, C-O-R-R-E. And just to add a bit of showbiz in there, the O, he draws spokes like it's a wagon wheel. Turns it over to the guy. The guy looks at it. Okay, I will get this done. He goes to the printers, gets them printed off. At this point, I've not heard any of this story. And believe me, I needed it explained to me 10 times before I accepted it. Later in the day, I turn up with Heat. I turn up with Justin Gabriel and Zeke, and we're all excited. Oh, my God, it's going to be Nexus all over again. We're going to get him. Think of the feud we're going to have with Edge. We're going to get to work with Edge. How cool is that? Rey Mysterio. Oh, my God, the matches are going to be amazing. Everyone's going to buy into us again. CM Punk, we don't need his Nexus. So we turn out, and the merch guy's waiting for us. Hey, guys, here are your T-shirts. What the is this? Then I get explained the whole story of how this went down, and he even has the drawing that Vince did, which I wish to this day I had kept, but he shows me the drawing, and there you go. That's the Core with 2 R's. And we were off and running, the new Nexus. And I've just realized I haven't actually answered the question at all there. I've gone off on a tangent that I kind of beat myself up about every single day. But anyway, so back to Heath Slater, the dumbest man I've ever met. So part of Vince's deal, when you come up with a new character, a new gimmick, and he's got big plans for it, and he's real excited about it, what you have to do immediately is to go on like a media blitz, and you do all the website interviews, and you get stuff on WWE.com, we're hyping it up, we're getting interviewed by newspapers. So the very next day after we debut as The Core, I can't even remember what we did as the debut, I've blanked it all out, but the very next day, I get home to Tampa, and I've got a list of 20 telephone interviews I've got to do, and everyone wants to know about The Core, everyone wants to... What's the story? Is it going to be as big as Nexus? What are your goals? What are you doing? But the first question I get asked in every interview is, why is The Core spelt with 2 R's? And in professional wrestling, we lie a lot. And we lie a lot because we try and make things better than they really are. So if I'd have told this story about how, okay, there was a horror movie who'd taken course and we had to use something different, it kind of sounds So I made up a story about Heath, which was very plausible if you've ever heard Heath on a microphone, and tell the world that, so we sent Heath Slater along. Unfortunately, he didn't get educated particularly well in West Virginia. He doesn't know how to spell core. He got the T-shirts printed off, but now we're stuck with them. And, got a bit of a laugh, and that story then snowballed and became how the Core got its name. But it's not Heath's fault. The dummy in this situation is Vince McMahon.
Poor Heath Slater. And, I mean, that's all we really need to talk about The Core. We just wanted to know why it was spelt so mentally. But after that, you began your singles run, and there was so many times where they did push you and wanted to, or almost push you to things. And one of the big ideas, or I think Dave Meltzer had reported at the time, is that you were scheduled to win the SmackDown Money in the Bank the year that Daniel Bryan won it, which would be in 2011, I think. 11. Any truth that you were going to win that, and why did that not come to fruition, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. So the Core demised fairly rapidly after its inception, and I ended up having a feud with Ezekiel Jackson over the Intercontinental Championship. So my career from where it was at the end of December 2010, when I was still with the Nexus, to 6 months or 5 months later at the demise of the Core was really polar opposite. So I was flying high, and the Core had been this huge letdown for me, and my career had sank at that point. So I think there was still this idea that, listen, Wade was so hot as this heel, let's get him back up there, and we have Money in the Bank coming up, and that was still a pretty big deal. I think people are a bit jaded by Money in the Bank now, because how many times can you watch a cash-in and get excited about it? But at the time, it was still fairly new, so the idea was Wade is going to be in one of the competitors in the Money in the Bank this year. I think Justin Gabriel was in there, Heath Slater was in there, Kane was in there, Daniel Bryan was in there. So there was 6 or 7. I think Christian might have been in there too, if I'm remembering that correctly. But there were 6 or 7 guys in there who at the time were all, having potential, and we were pretty excited. So we get there the day before the match. Money in the Bank ladder match is one of the rare matches that you actually have rehearsals for, because it's less of a wrestling match and more of a stunt show. And it's kind of set up like dominoes where, okay, this part of the match, we need to set up this ladder here so it's there later when this guy gets thrown off this ladder and it's got something to land on. And the whole thing is just like a puzzle that you have to put together piece by piece. So we get there the day before, we put the match together. The plan is, I'm going over, I'm going to be the Money in the Bank champion, I'll have the briefcase, and presumably at that point I will eventually go on to be cash it in and be the WWE champion, which, let's face it, is everyone's goal who gets the WWE. So I get informed of that, we put the whole match together, we set it up, and I'm incredibly excited. I mean, there's not much you can tell a wrestler in WWE that will excite him more than hearing that he's going to win his first ever WWE championship, even though that was going to be a little bit down the line. But at that point, winning the briefcase, nobody had ever failed on a cash-in, and I knew if I got it, I was going to win the title. So I was thrilled. It was great news. Go home. Next day of the pay-per-view, we turn up. We're all kind of in catering. We go down to the ring. We have a chat with the guys. Plan's still the same. Vince and the writers are all having a meeting. And probably about an hour before the show goes live, we're all kind of getting our gear on. Dean Malenko, who is the agent for the match, comes out, okay, guys, I need to get all the guys for this match together just so we can go through a few things. He tells us, okay, we're going to put the match together, but just to let you all know, Vince has had a change of heart. He's decided now that he wants Daniel Bryan to win the match, and Daniel Bryan's going to win the briefcase, and there we go. So I was informed then, and obviously I was inside furious when I heard this, but you keep up a stiff upper lip, as they say, and you go along with it. I was pleased with Brian. He was a great guy, and subsequently it obviously worked out pretty well for him. But to me personally, that was a moment that was incredibly disappointing, and I knew that things in my career, looking back now anyway, would have been very different had I actually won that match. And that's something where a career can turn on a dime, really, as they say in America, and I could have potentially won my first championship there and gone on to have a very different career path than I subsequently did. So I was told the reason why Daniel Bryan was chosen instead of me is that Pat Patterson had gone to bat for Daniel Bryan, and behind the scenes, Pat had a infatuation with Daniel. Oh, that's the wrong word. He had a... I don't want to paint this in a way it shouldn't go. That's not what I meant at all. He was a big fan of Daniel Bryan. Let's put it more like that. And Pat is a great guy. I've got nothing against Pat at all, even despite this. But he went to Vince McMahon, and he's very much a Vince McMahon right-hand man. He's known him for years. They've worked very closely together. And he went to Vince and said, look, we've never done something like this before. Daniel Bryan, who at the time was being portrayed as a complete loser, a dweeb, skinny, not big enough to be a wrestler, a dork. Vince genuinely didn't like Daniel Bryan at the time, I don't think. How about this? We've never done it before. Daniel Bryan wins the Money in the Bank briefcase. He goes on this run where he keeps losing all the way to WrestleMania, but he decides to cash it in prior to WrestleMania and say, whoever's the champion, I want a match with you at WrestleMania. He's going to do it the noble way. He's not going to do it the way where the bad guys come in just after the babyface has been beaten up for 30 minutes. Now I'm cashing it in, the Edge type cash in. He's going to do it the right way, and he's going to announce it, and he's going to go all the way to WrestleMania. And what a great story it is about overcoming the odds and the underdog and the unlikely hero. And Vince buys it. Vince likes the idea, and there we go. So Daniel was given the Money in the Bank briefcase because of that. And part of the thing that really annoys me about it now is that that's not how it went at all. If you remember how it went, pretty soon afterwards, Daniel Bryan became a heel and the cheat, and he cashed it in on Big Show with a kind of Edge-type cash-in. So it was given to Daniel because of this storyline that Vince bought into, and it's really indicative of Vince's kind of mindset, how quickly he changes his mind on things that, within 2 or 3 months later, Daniel was now a heel, and that story had been forgotten about. So that was certainly a career disappointment for me, and looking back, I think things could have gone very differently had they stuck with the original plan of me winning that Money in the Bank briefcase. Is this good? Are you guys enjoying this? I'm trying to be as honest as I can about things. I know things sometimes get a little heavy and a little serious, but hopefully we're having some laughs and getting entertainment too. It's not supposed to be all kind of doom and gloom like that.
There is a name, though, that, on the very lower underground of wrestling, people who've, read everything and watched everything and, I guess, listened to hotel rooms or something, there's a name that nobody really knows what it's all about, and it's Wade the Barber Barrett. What is that?
So Wade the Barber Barrett was a very short-lived gimmick of mine. Again, it speaks volumes about Vince's short-term thinking and very strange ways in a lot of instances. And what happened there was Vince was in some sort of feud with Daniel Bryan. This happened, I think, perhaps in 2013. And Daniel Bryan had kind of he'd been the world champion at this point, and he was starting to ride pretty high in the company, but he looked a mess. I mean, he had this horrible beard. His hair was all over the place. He looked like a scarecrow. And the whole storyline was that Vince wanted him to be more of a corporate champion. You've got to have a short back and sides and wear a suit. So they had this story where he was forcing Daniel Bryan to wear suits and wear ill-fitting clothes. And Daniel Bryan's a cool guy. He just wants to wear a T-shirt, a pair of jeans, and let his hair grow however. He's not a stiff corporate guy at all. So that's the storyline, and Daniel Bryan's selling it great, and everyone's buying into it. And Daniel Bryan's wearing this suit on Raw, and then all of a sudden Vince decides he's still not quite there. I need to clean him up. He needs a short back and sides. He needs to have his beard cut. He needs to start looking good. So they have this segment where Vince is in the ring, Daniel Bryan's in the ring, and he tells him, I need you to get your hair cut, otherwise I'm going to fire you. And Daniel Bryan, not wanting to lose his job, he's going to go along with this and get his hair cut. So Vince gets a barber's chair wheeled out, and somebody's going to go cut his hair. So presumably, we all love wrestling. Brutus the Barber Beefcake is going to come out, right? Of course he is. Brutus is going to come out, and he's going to cut Daniel Bryan's hair and shave it off or whatever. And what a great segment this is, a bit of nostalgia. Oh, I loved him when I was a kid. The beefcake, yeah, come on, Brutus. He's all right. I've completely misjudged this crowd. I apologize. Brutus Beefcake. Well, the good news is that Brutus Beefcake did not come out. Vince
What
stood
did Brutus Beefcake do all of a sudden?
Who knows?
He shut a subway down.
Do you want to come up on stage and do this? I'll just leave.
Okay, so after Brutus shut a subway shop down,
we're going to move on. We're going to move on from Brutus Beefcake. We're getting completely lost here. Brutus Beefcake really had nothing to do with this story, so let's forget I even mentioned him. I can see this guy's real upset. But anyway, so we're in the ring. Vince is in there. Daniel Bryan with his messy hair and his suit is in there. There's a barber chair getting wheeled down, and Vince looks at it and says, well, we got a barber's chair. All we need now is a barber. Send out Wade Barrett. Yeah, and I got the script about an hour before this, and I was as baffled as you are now. So Vince tells the story that Wade Barrett's great-grandfather in London was a barber, friend of Sweeney Todd's. Therefore, he's now a barber in WWE. I know we've never mentioned this before, but that's true, honestly. So anyway, I come down with my shears, and I'm hamming it up because this is the most ridiculous thing I've done in my career. To this point, it did get more ridiculous, admittedly. But I come down with my shears. Inevitably, I go to shave Daniel Bryan. He headbutts me, turns it around, and my beard gets shaved off. I get kicked in the arse, and once again, I'm looking like the biggest dickhead on the planet. Unfortunately, at that point, I got on the next flight home to the UK, and I had to renew my visa and was stuck in the UK for about 2 months. So during that period, in my feeling sorry for myself, Bad News Barrett became a thing. So we can certainly get onto that at some point, and things started looking up a little after that.